That was absolutely perfect timing. Bawkwar Tawab Yasharala Wakala Adatza Za Akakara Wasizaya Ban Yashala. And we're gonna get some extra credit. All right. So my mind, my spirit, my heart isn't content with the amount of information that was brought out. Um, but I also had the opportunity to be able to decompress. You know what I'm saying? So that was a blessing. So for the student, for the one who would like the extra credit, for the one who want to know just a little bit more, let me share with you specifically. All right. We're going to read from our beloved historian. His name is Flavius Josephus. I'm going to make sure that you be able to see the screen properly, prayerfully. All right. Let's make this a little bit larger. StreamYard, there we go. Now, what you're looking at is a representation of the Levites and the table of showbread. All right. The high priest, as you can see, recognized by the breastplate, also the mitre, right? Now we see the altar of incense, all right? This is for the extra credit student, all right? Let's go down a little more. That would be the brazen altar, all right? Something I mentioned before was a material called electrium. Electrium is a specific type of metal that is made from either compounding or electrium can be found in earth properties. Well, this is what the brazen altar, also the laver and the foot that the Levites used, was made out of because of its cleaning and healing properties. All right. We'll go into that another time. Let's go straight into our extra credit. This is Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, and I believe we're at book 3. Book 3, chapter 11 of the purifications. After we read this section, I want to give you a little bit more. I hope you like it. Moses took out of the tribe of Levi from communicating with the rest of the people and set them apart to be a holy tribe and purified them by water taken from perpetual springs and with such sacrifices as were usually offered to Allahia on like occasions. He delivered them also the tabernacle and the sacred vessels and the other curtains which were made for a covering of the tabernacle, that they might minister unto the conduct of the priests who had been already consecrated by Allahia. So if you remember this week's Torah portion, we read about the jobs of the Levites. All right, let me show you something real quick. Flavius Josephus on the life of Josephus. For those of you who don't know about this Negro historian, I want to tell you about him briefly. The worldwide institutions know him as Flavius Josephus, but that wasn't his true name. He not only tells us his true name, he tells us his beginning. He reads, "The family from which I am derived is not an ignoble one, but have descended all along from the priests. And as nobility among several people is as different of origin, so with us to be of the sacerdotal dignity in the indication of the splendor of a family." In other words, you come from that family and that's respectable, but I'm from the Levites, and not only just a regular schmegular floor sweeping Levite, but I wore the sacerdotal dignity in my family as an indicating splendor of a family. Now, I am not only sprung from the sacerdotal family in general, but from the first of the 24 courses. I know that might have just blew somebody's mind, and I know it blew mine when I first heard it. It blew my socks off. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Flavius Josephus is not a namby-pamby. When he says he is from the sacerdotal family, he's from the Levitical high priest bloodline. And also, when it comes to the courses that King David had us set in, the 24 courses, he says, I'm from the first of the 24 courses. When this man, listen, people try to cherry pick and use Flavius Josephus' writings for whatever they choose to, but not all the way for the truth. And that's super whack. This man had a beautiful reputation, he had a beautiful history, and he also teaches his lineage. He teaches his sons, his daughters, granddaughters. He teaches, his brothers, who was this? Sons. I shouldn't say granddaughters because I don't know if that's a granddaughter. 9 sons. He married the daughter of, I don't know if he names off his granddaughters, but he gives the time frame of him and his children going back to the time frame of Maccabees. Look at this. He says, I have 3 sons. Hyrcanus, the eldest, was born on the 4th year of the reign of Vespasian, AD 72. Remember, Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. As was Justus, born on the 7th AD 75, and Agrippa in the 9th AD 77. Thus have I set down my genealogy of my family as I have found it described in the public records. And so bid adieu to those who culminate me of a lower original. Flavius Josephus says, I'm not a regular schmegular. Let me tell you about myself. And I just want to do the same thing. I want to share that information with you. This is where we just read from. Okay. All right. This is called The Life of Josephus. Okay. But let's get back to On the Purifications. On the Purifications, we see that, and again, this is extra credit. All right. So the order of the Levitical office was given to the sons of Aaron forever and ever. He also determined concerning animals, which of them might be used for food and which they were obliged to abstain from, which matters when this work shall be given me, when this work shall give me occasion, shall be farther explained. And the causes shall be added by which he was moved to allot some of them to be our food and enjoined us to abstain from others. However, he entirely forbade us the use of blood for food and esteemed it to contain the soul and spirit. He also forbade us to eat the flesh of an animal that died of itself, as also the caul and the fat of goats and sheep and bulls. So these are the laws that Moses set out for us to know how to live, how to eat, how to operate. And that's the problem. Black people don't know that you got rules you're supposed to live by. The rules that Black people are supposed to live by are called the Torah. The whole world is supposed to live by these, but African Americans specifically are known as a lawless people, a people who are we just don't know. And some stuff I just can't watch. And I talk to some of my other friends, and some of my best friends from other nations. Ain't that crazy? And I talk to them, and they'll say they just lost. They lost. They won't twist their lips up to speak against the children of Israel. But I'll be like, man, these niggas tripping. And I look at my Gentiles friends, and they be like, they lost. The reality of it is we are a lost people, and somebody has to be in the corner of a room reading the rules to how African Americans are supposed to behave until you pick up the mantle and start reading it to yourself. African Americans are the children of Israel. No matter which tribe you may think you come from, at least consider. The scripture says the ox knoweth his owner and the ass his master's crib, but Israel does not consider. My people do not know. Don't even consider if we're Israelites or not. He also determined Moses for us, and we are supposed to learn these and then teach them to everybody else. Now, there are people around the world who know your laws better than you. Don't be ashamed to ask a Gentile if they know about these Israelite rules. And then come back and reflect with them. They might be they might be preserving information for you, right? He is Moses, also determined concerning animals, which of them might be used for food and which they were obliged to abstain from, which foods we might eat and which foods we were commanded to not eat, which matters when this work shall give me occasion, or when I get a chance, shall be further explained, and the causes shall be added by which he was moved to allot some of them to be our food and enjoined us to abstain from others. However, he entirely forbade us the use of blood for food and esteemed it to contain the soul and spirit. This is what Moses taught us. Don't eat the blood, no vampire drinking. I'm gonna tell you, one time when I was a child, I had a cut and I had drank the blood and I got sick. I got sick. It was terrible. I knew why I had got sick. I had drank my own blood, man. It was gross. Ugh. Ugh. So the Most High tells us don't do that, man. So, however, he entirely forbade us the use of blood for food and esteemed it to contain the soul and spirit. He also forbade us to eat the flesh of an animal that died of itself. This is a rule that means you cannot eat roadkill, which is so messed up because we don't know what flesh we're eating. We don't know what meat we're eating. We just don't know. Ugh. And I don't know if you know this, but let's look this up real quick. In how many states in the United States is it lawful to serve roadkill in restaurants? I want everybody to see this page with me. This is not a joke. This is not a hoax. This is not something I just made up. It is lawful to serve roadkill in restaurants in exactly 0 states in the United States. You can review state-by-state guidelines regarding the harvesting of wildlife in California Department of Fish, Wildlife. While over 30 states, including South Carolina, have roadkill salvage laws. There we go. Okay. Maybe that's what we need to. Oh, we got road. Okay, now let's find out what are roadkill salvage laws that allow individuals to legally pick up, contain accidental collisions for personal consumptions. Selling or serving that meat commercially is strictly prohibited nationwide. Man, tell that to the vendors. All right. I want to find out more about this roadkill salvage laws. All right. So let's change our spectrum or change our view of our question. All right. Oh, that was it right there. How many states in America have roadkill salvage laws? Okay, currently over 30 states in America. Okay, that's the question we should have asked in the first place. All right, roadkill rules, 30 states that let you keep dead, right? Okay, so you got these restaurants that are all around, and I mean, you don't know what you're eating. Currently, over 30 states in America, estimated range between 30 and 35, explicitly allow the salvage of roadkill. Most of these laws focus on large game such as deer, allowing residents to legally keep and consume the meat. Let's take a step back. Okay, go potty, Benaf. Khan? I'm right here. Go potty. You're doing good. I'm right here. Go. You're still dry. You're doing great. Yes, I can help you. All right, the wife for being patient. All right, so let's get back to Josephus. All right, so this is where we were. He also determined concerning animals, right? So this is what we see. All right. Um, and which one to abstain from. All right. However, he forbade us use of blood. There we go. However, he entirely forbade us the use of blood for food, and esteemed it to contain the soul and spirit. He also forbade us. Here's the point: to eat the flesh of an animal that died of itself. So roadkill, things that's found, well, whether it was smacked by a truck or whether it fell down, these are instances to where we're supposed to keep away from those type of things. But we live in a nation that still serves them to us. All right. As also the caul and the fat of goats and sheep and bulls. He also ordered that those whose bodies were afflicted with the leprosy, now it gets very interesting here, and that had the gonorrhea. In case you didn't know this, the word gonorrhea is in biblical context. Why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Something I think also is very interesting is the concept of what we learn about AIDS. you know, such a trippy subject to look into. The concept of AIDS hoax is very trippy. Did you watch that? Did great. To look into. All right. You need to go get your blanket. Go get your blanket. Go get your blanket. What are we doing? Gonorrhea is a common curable sexually transmitted infection caused by bacterium Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Okay, I'm pretty sure the majority of us know what that is. Any images? Do we need to see any images? No, we don't? Great. So with that being said, let's go back to the subject matter. Flavius Josephus also tells us, hey baby, welcome back. Get yourself warm and cover up. Plus, you're gonna be on right now. You got your pajamas on, so you don't want to be seen, huh? You don't want people to see the pajamas. That's your sleeping clothes. All right. All right. So this is something else that Moses did to and for us. And the point of learning how to separate ourselves and keep ourselves clean, he also ordered that those whose bodies were afflicted with leprosy. Now, leprosy could be from actually scaly skin to, having very bad dry rashes, to it could be, going into the boils that are contagious, and it could go into herpes, and it could also go into vitiligo. So leprosy does have a wide range of symptoms, a wide range of symptoms that the Most High explains. And he explains them in the scriptures to us. And this is why we encourage people to read the Torah so you can learn those things, right? So he also ordered those whose bodies were afflicted, right? That's the sickness with leprosy, and that had a gonorrhea should not come into the city. Nay, he removed the women when they had their natural purgations. So now we're looking at what? Menstrual cycle. So even in the subject matter of menstrual cycle, the Most High had the women to be separated and to be set apart, because uncleanliness is just uncleanliness on any level. Whether the uncleanliness is the uncleanliness of flesh, or it's the uncleanliness of excuse me, let me get back to the page. Okay. So whether uncleanliness is uncleanliness of flesh, or came in contact with a dead body, whichever one of these, or a menstrual cycle, these are all matters to where the Father said that we have to separate ourselves and others. So that's a good form of separation, right? Till the seventh day, right? When they had their natural purgations till the seventh day, after which he looked on them as pure and permitted them to come in again. The laws permitted those also who have taken care of funerals to come in after the same manner. When this number of days is over, so if you just have a funeral, you're also unclean for 7 days. That's what Moses teaches. Josephus is reiterating. But if any continue longer than that number of days in a state of pollution, the law appointed the offering 2 lambs for a sacrifice, the one which they are purged by the fire, and for the other, the priests take it for themselves. In the same manner, do those sacrifices who have had the what? The gonorrhea, right? Isn't that interesting? But he that sheds his seed in his sleep, or in other words, if you have had what people call a wet dream, if you're a man, you've had a wet dream, if he goes down into cold water, he has the same privilege with those that have fully accompanied with their wives. But for lepers, he suffered them not to come into the city at all, nor to live with any others, as if they were in effect dead persons. But if anyone had obtained by prayer, look at this, and this is so natural. If any, if any had obtained by prayer to God the recovery from that distemper and gained a healthful complexion again, such a one returned thanks to Allahayim with several sorts of sacrifices, concerning which we will speak hereafter. Whence one cannot but smile at those that say Moses himself was afflicted with the leprosies when he fled out of Egypt, and that he became the conductor of those who on that account fled that country and led them into the land of Canaan. For had this been true, Moses would not have made these laws to his own dishonor. Again, for had this been true, Moses would not have made these laws to his own dishonor, which indeed it was more likely he would have opposed if others had endeavored to introduce them. If Moses what? If Moses was a leopard. Why? Because you have people that say Charleston Heston was Moses. See, we're looking at the very specific subject of, let me see, let's go back up to it. Gained a healthful complexion again. All right. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? For had this been true, Moses would not have made these laws to his own dishonor, which indeed it was more likely he would have opposed if others had endeavored to introduce them. And this the rather because there are leopards in many nations who yet are in honor, and not only free from reproach and avoidance, but who have been great captains of armies and been entrusted with high offices in the commonwealth and have had the privilege of entering into holy places and temples, so that nothing hindered but so that nothing hindered but if either Moses himself or the multitude that was with him had been liable of such misfortune in the color of his skin. That's powerful. He might have made laws about them for their credit and advantage, and have laid no manner of difficulty upon them. Accordingly, it is a plain case that it is out of violent prejudice that they report these things about us. But Moses was pure from any such distemper, and lived with countrymen who were pure of it also, and thence made the laws which concerned others that had this distemper. He did this for the honor of Allahayah. But as to these matters, let everyone consider them after what manner he pleases. And to the women, when they have borne a child, Moses forbade them to come into the temple or touch the sacrifices before 40 days were over, supposing it be a boy. But if she hath borne a girl, the law is that she cannot be admitted before twice the number of days be over. So that's 80 days, if I'm correct. Is that right? Right? Right. Yeah, 80 days. And let's read on though. She cannot be admitted before twice the number of days be over. And when after the before mentioned time appointed for them, they perform their sacrifices, the priests distribute them before Allah, before God. But if anyone suspect that his wife has been guilty of adultery, he was to bring a tenth deal of barley flour. They then cast one handful to God and gave the rest of it to the priest for food. And one of the priests, that's interesting, and one of the priests set the woman, man, at the gates that are turned toward the temple. Whoa, I got a whole different understanding of this now. And one of the priests set the woman at the gates that are turned toward the temple. And took the veil from her head. This is so powerful. One, showing that women, you should wear veils on your heads. You should have head coverings. And then two, showing that this is a serious matter. If another man takes the veil off of your wife's head, that's a serious matter. Women should have their heads covered in modesty and in beauty to protect themselves spiritually and physically. And took the veil from her head. And look at what else the priest did. And wrote the name of Yahweh or Allahiah, wrote the name of God in parchment, and enjoined her to swear that she had not at all injured her husband, and to wish that if she had violated her chastity, her right thigh may be put out of joint, and her belly might swell, and that she might die thus. But that if her husband, by the violence of his affection, you see that? By the violence of his affection, he loved me so much, he just tripping. You love me so much, he just worried about me too much. And of the jealousy which arose from it, had been rashly moved to this suspicion that she might bear a male child on the 10th month. Now, when these oaths were over, the priest wiped the name of God out of the parchment and wrung the water into a vial. He also took some of the dust of the temple, if any happened to be there, and put a little of it into the vial and gave it to her to drink. Whereupon the woman, if she were unjustly accused, conceived with child and brought it to perfection in her womb. But if she had broken her faith of wedlock to her husband and had sworn falsely before God, she died in a reproachful manner. Her right thigh fell off from her, and her belly swelled with the dropsies. And these are the ceremonies about the sacrifices and about the purifications hereto belonging, which Moses provided for his countrymen. He also prescribed the following laws for them. As for adultery, Moses forbade it entirely, as esteeming it an happy thing that men should be wise in the affairs of wedlock, and that it was not profitable, and that it was profitable both to cities and families that children should be known to be genuine. He also abhorred men's lying with their mothers as one of the greatest crimes, and the like for lying with the father's wife, and with the aunts and sisters and sons' wives, as all instances of abominable wickedness. He also forbade a man to lie with his wife when she was defiled by her natural purgation, and not to come near to brute beasts, nor to approve of the lying with a male, which was to hunt after unlawful pleasures on the account of beauty. But those who were guilty of such insolent behavior, he ordained death for his punishment. As for the priests, he prescribed to them a double degree of purity, for He restrained them in the instances above, and moreover, forbade them to marry harlots. He also forbade them to marry a slave or a captive, and such as got their living by cheating trades and by keeping ends. Let me explain. If there was a woman and she was a stripper, the Most High said a Levite can't marry a stripper. See, a Levite had to have a double portion of purity and being set apart, a double portion of purity and being set apart in his holiness. Okay? A Levite had to be married to a woman who was also pure. Okay? He wasn't able to go and get a common woman. As for the priest, he prescribed to them a double degree of purity. Now, watch this. For he restrained them in the instances above, and moreover, so even more than that, he forbade, he absolutely said no to them marrying harlots. He also forbade them to marry a slave. It was not lawful for Levite men or Levite priests. It was not lawful for Levite priests to marry slaves. Okay? There's so many things that go into that. And we can go over it another time. The Most High's will. All right. Here am I. Ma? Huh? Can you sleep where? On the couch? Go ahead. Shut up. He restrained them in other instances above, and moreover forbade them to marry harlots. He also forbade them to marry a slave, and there's a lot of things that go into that on what could happen to a female slave, and also her not being a noble or a freed woman. All right, and also the slaves from our culture would be the Gentiles, because Israelite women wouldn't be slaves. We would make them, not make them, but she could sell herself for a temporary time frame as an employed servant. Uh, but Israelite women weren't slaves, so therefore it was not lawful for Levite men to marry Gentile women, women from other nations. It wasn't lawful. All right. He also forbade them to marry a slave or a captive, or such as got their living, or women that got their living by cheating trades. All right. No women at the casinos, at the bars, at the clubs. Oh, like, oh no, she's a bottle girl. Oh no, she's an IG girl. Oh no, she's, no, none of those women like those. None of those women that, dance on, stages and stuff with the belly rings. They weren't allowed to dance. No, the Levites weren't allowed to deal with them. And such as got their living by cheating trades and by keeping ends. Okay, so there's your bottle and bar girls. As also a woman parted from her husband on any account whatsoever. So Levites weren't allowed to deal with a woman who were, separated from her husband for any reason. Nay, he did not think it proper for a high priest to marry even a widow of one that was dead, though he allowed it to the priests, but he permitted him only to marry a virgin and to retain her. Whence, now there's your monogamy right there, all day, all right, all day, right? Uh, Whence it is that the high priest is not to come near to one that is dead, although the rest are not prohibited from coming near to his brethren or parents or children when they are dead. But they are to be unblemished in all aspects. He ordered that the priest who had any blemish should have his portion indeed amongst the priests, but he forbade him to ascend the altar or to enter into the holy house. But he permitted them, boom, boom, boom. Let's start right there. Holy house. He also enjoined them not only to observe purity in their sacred ministrations, but in their daily conversation, that it might be unblameable also. And on this account it is that those who wear the sacerdotal garments are without spot and eminent for their purity and sobriety, nor are they permitted to drink wine so long as they wear those garments. Moreover, they offer sacrifices that are entire and have no defect whatsoever. And truly, Moses gave them all these precepts, being such as were observed during his own lifetime. But through but though he lived now in the wilderness, yet did he make provision how they might observe the same laws when they should have taken the land of Canaan. He gave then rest to the land from plowing and planting in the seventh year, as he had prescribed to them to rest from working in the seventh day. There go your Sabbath right there. He ordered that when he ordered that uh, he ordered that what grew of its own accord out of the earth should in common belong to all that please to use it, making no distinction in the respect between their own countrymen and foreigners. Look how beautiful that is, Gentile salvation. And he ordained that they should do the same after 7 times 7 years, when which in all are 50 years. And in the 50th year, and the 50th year is called by the Hebrews the Jubilee, wherein debtors are free from their debts and slaves are set at liberty, which slaves become such, though they were of the same stock, by transgressing some of those laws, whose punishment was not capital, but they were punished by this method of slavery. Sheesh, there we go. There go a cold cut and a correction. So you do the crime, you do the time. Okay. So so if you was an Israelite woman and you got sold into slavery for doing a crime, you couldn't marry a Levite priest. All right. That's an even better explanation than what I gave earlier. Thank you, Father. All right. This year also restores the land to its former possessors in the manner following. When the Jubilee is come, which name denotes liberty, he that sold the land and he that bought it meet together and make an estimate on one hand of the fruits gathered, and on the other hand of the expenses laid out upon it. If the fruits gathered come to be more than the expenses laid out, he that sold it takes the land again. But if the expenses prove more than the fruits, the present possessor receives of the former owner the difference that was wanting and leaves the land to him. But if the fruits received and the expenses laid out prove equal to one another, the present possessor relinquishes it to the former owner. Moses would have the same laws obtained as to those houses which were sold in villages. Khan, yes? Huh? Okay. And this would be a perfect time to say, Laila Tawab, Yashra Babakar. This was a little bit of extra credit, and prayerfully, you heard and learned something new. But not only heard and learned something new, you've seen that these details of what we read in the Torah, they go so much deeper. So don't stop with the Torah portion reading. All right? Don't stop till you get enough. All right. Anya will come. All right. We're gonna go and get some rest now. Shalom, shalom. Dua for your time. All right. Come on, Yeshua.